My name's Mick Smith and I'm the Borough Commander of Police at Havering. I'm one of a number of boroughs that support the Metropolitan Police Service in delivering our priorities, both across the whole of London but also to the community of Havering. One of my roles is to actually employ a number of volunteers, and I employ over 200 volunteers, and examples of the volunteers that I currently employ here at Havering, about 78 special constabulary that support me in the crime and disorder reduction, tackling antisocial behaviour and increasing the actual presence of the actual service on the actual streets. Voluntary police cadets, about 75 of those currently work on Havering, and they get used in a number of different ways. An example of that is community engagement, handing out leaflets and listening to what the concerns of the community. But I've also got a number of other volunteers that work currently within Havering itself, both in the actual police building, but also that go out to local community events that give me an opportunity of actually working and supporting the Safer Neighbourhood teams. If people volunteer to give their time free of charge to the police service, then it is important for me that they get appropriately supported. Otherwise, what will happen is that we spend an awful lot of time recruiting volunteers, and then they're here for 2 or 3 weeks, then they don't get support, so they then leave. So then we have to go through the whole process. So it's a matter of investing time to support and coordinate and manage volunteers that will give me the payback of people wanting to actually stay here and progress. And it might be as well that the volunteers have come into the service to give their free time and suddenly realise that it's an actual a career that they might want to progress themselves. So it's an element of recruiting for the service in the future. But yeah, the feedback that I have is that they feel valued, they feel supported, and when an issue does arise, having the manager in place and the coordinator does give me the ability to actually manage that issue before it manifests itself, causing problems not only to the volunteer, but to any internal staff or, dare I say it, members of the community that actually have that front-facing side with the volunteer. Volunteer management for me is vitally important, and the value I have with that particular role is I've now put the volunteer manager onto the actual senior management team within Havering. So when I'm talking about strategic issues, performance, policy, procedure, and how we're supporting the overarching aims and objectives of the actual service itself, then I have the volunteer manager as part of that decision-making process, and who is able to actually contribute about the ways that volunteers can support the policing that we deliver locally across a number of different ways. And I think that sends a very, very positive message, not just the actual volunteer manager, as what I regard being the uniqueness of that particular profession, but also to all volunteers that actually work within Havering, because they see their manager on the key decision-making process within the actual borough, which I think is vitally important, not only to the actual volunteers, but to all members of police staff and police officers who see that I place the importance of that particular volunteer manager's post by being on the senior management team, and it sends a message to them as well about where I see volunteers being positioned within Havering Borough. I think volunteer management is paying off. I think it demonstrates to me, and I will give you an example of that. Romford Town Centre, on a Friday and Saturday, one of the biggest nighttime economies outside central London. I've got to ensure, as the lead for the actual borough, that I've got sufficient staff available to me to deal with the challenges that I would face on a Friday and Saturday. And what gets provided to me is exactly the number of special constabulary that will be employed down there in addition to normal regular officers. That is provided to me on a regular basis, and that says to me the importance of focusing on policing numbers, but also focusing on tactics and operations where the volunteers are completely coordinated in terms of the actual delivery that we're going to provide within Romford Town Centre. And I think without that management and coordination, I just wouldn't have that available, and I wouldn't be able to provide the service that I think is needed, not just in Romford Town Centre, but within Hornchurch Town Centre and other areas of Havering where the community deserve that support and that level of service, not just from the actual regular police officers, but from the special constabulary, and at times for particular community events, the actual volunteer cadets as well. I would thoroughly recommend to any public body to actually utilise volunteers and a manager to actually coordinate and support those volunteers within the actual process.